I want to thank Right Guard. Very soon, guys and gals, you will be seeing our Twitter and Instagram pasted all over these broadcasts, right below over here, and you will also be seeing the Right Guard emblem. Yes, Right Guard. We want to thank Right Guard. I'm working on that too. We want to thank Right Guard, but I certainly don't want to thank our rep, James. James, you need to understand something. You're just part of the machine. You're not the machine. You know who showed up, Paul, on the green room this past Saturday? Todd, the person that he works for, the executive, the guy that gets things done. I want to thank Todd, not you, James, you spineless jellyfish. I want to thank Todd for supplying us with the greatest antiperspirant you could ever imagine. And every single time Paul Roma gets mad because Howard shows up in the broadcast instead of me, even though he was expecting me, Paul Roma's got his Right Guard to cool him down. Right Guard, Arctic Refresh, 72 hours. It'll keep you protected from scum like Howard Collado. And you guys need to grab your Right Guard, not by one, not by two, by the dozen, by the dirty dozen. Make sure you grab as much as you can. They're there for us. They can be there for you as well, Paul.
Beautiful. Hey, listen, you touched on PAPW pay-per-view as the first one. I let my students run with it. The show was they brought in a lot of outsiders, a lot of outside wrestlers. Give them a chance, and it needs a lot of work. I'm gonna be honest with because it's always maintain the truth. It needs a lot of work. We're gonna open up another one. I'm going to promise you this. I will get my hands dirty on this one. Get back involved again, as I did when I ran the shows, and work with my students to get this right. And again, we're not going to have all the glitz and the glamour like the WWE. Obviously, we're nowhere near what they have, but we are going to show and showcase some real talent. And hopefully this next one will do just that. We're going to have abundance of our wrestlers and interviews, live interviews, and things like that. So I'm looking forward to this one. We're going to put this one, the first one, to bed, clean up the mistakes, and move on from there.
Guys, I want you to understand PAPW, what separates you from the other promotions. Check out PAPW, and right now we'll bring in Paul Perez. Before that, I'll do my plugs. But guys and gals, check out Pro Wrestling, Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, because this is a promotion that just isn't just about quality matches. You'll get that as well. They're not just about credible trainers. You'll get that across the board as well. But you get humble people. Your story, Paul Roma, that you told me months ago, and Mario also told me this story, you guys probably find it a little bit strange to assume that a man of Paul's stature is there to help out, whether it's making sure that you're cleaning up the place, doing whatever you can. You are humility personified, and that's what PAPW stands for. Absolute humility personified. You guys are allowed to train people the way that you do, but you're also giving them knowledge as it pertains to life and giving them the tools that they need to succeed as human beings, so I applaud you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Guys and gals, unless you live under a rock, you can catch us 7 days a week, every single day. We're absolutely unedited, unscripted, unfiltered, 90 minutes and 2 hours every single day. Who can give you that? Nobody else, but we can't, because we're wrestling with anything but. We're the hottest wrestling-related podcast right now in terms of views. Why? Because we're wrestling with anything but. We give you everything under the moon. And you guys need to stop looking under the rock, because guess what? He's not going to help you. I'm talking about Dwayne or anybody else. Joe Rogan, he needs some hair. Nobody's going to help you. We're going to help you through 2021, because they're not there for you every day. Maybe out with their tweets. We don't tweet. We're here live. We step into the danger zone every single day. Starting with every Monday, a preview and a review show at 5 p.m. each time on Tuesday. What we have is the double part 1 of the double breaking the escalation with Avi Klein and Stream. Part 2 of the double face value below Avi Klein 5:30 p.m. each time on Wednesday. Right now, do your eyes deceive you? Do you need a brand new prescription? I don't think so. You're looking at Paul Roma and Avi Klein maintaining the truth every Wednesday, 7 p.m. each time on Thursday. WWE Hall of Famer Don Morocco and Avi Klein for making waves. Noon Hawaiian time, 5 p.m. each time on Friday. Podcast with a purpose. Road to recovery. Duke it up to right coast and Avi Klein. 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern time, 5 Central. You know the time slot. Saturday, a bunch of goofballs and quibbles like Mickey Noel, Howard Collado, David's not. He's going to run the place. Avi Klein's there as well. The Green Room every Saturday night, 11 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. Hard-hitting podcast on Asking the Truth. Patriot Dell looks at Avi Klein every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And guys and gals, right now, I control my voice. My choice is to lower my voice. My choice is to lower my voice because it's 2021. And when I'm tiptoeing around and I realize I need a promotion, I know my boss is around me. And if he hears me screaming like this, Paul, I may not get it. So here's what I'm going to do. If I want to make sure that I get a promotion, I tiptoe around my boss, I tap him on the shoulders, and I say, hey, boss. And he goes, what? You should be working right now. You should be storing those shoes in the fridge. And you tell him, I will, but just do me a favor. I came across something in 2020 that might change your life, and all I ask for is a small little promotion. That's all I ask for. You have the gall in these COVID times to ask me for a promotion? Yes, I do. Can you hear what I have to say? Go ahead. You got 5 seconds. Wrestling with anything but. What? What is that? wrestling with anything but. Have you heard of Paul Roma? Yeah, I love Paul Roma. Have you heard of Del Lutz? He's a superstar. I love him as well. Have you heard of Duke the Dumpster Drosy? Yeah. Don Morocco? Yeah, absolutely Hall of Famer. Ray Lloyd? Glacier. Of course, everyone knows Glacier. Have you heard of Bill DeMott? Yeah, he's changing lives. Have you heard of Avi Klein? I don't really care about that guy, but I have seen him pop up. But you know what? I didn't know that you guys can actually watch these guys every single day, but I know now because you're telling me that that's an option, right? I can watch them live every single day while I sit back and watch all of my employees do nothing? Yeah, you can watch that, but I'll give you the links because you probably can't access them. Really? How can I watch them? On Facebook for free. Thank you so much for telling me that. You're getting a promotion. You know what? Tito and John and Mario, they're all going to be fired. I'm going to give you their spots, so forget a promotion. You'll now have another title, a job title added to yours just for sharing these podcasts with me. That's what you guys can do in 2021. You can climb up that proverbial ladder just by sharing these podcasts. Paul, the floor is yours.
Wow. Listen, you leave me speechless every time, Golden Shine Klein. Love the name. I'm digging
thank
it.
you.
I'm really digging it. Seriously, Michael. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Roger. Yeah. So we got a guy backstage.
Hey, Chris Havlick, shut up. Go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
He is a former WWF wrestler. He is second generation wrestler. He is a trainer. He is a good friend of mine. And he's very soft-spoken, unlike me, unlike Golden Shine, unlike Mario, unlike Big Steve. This guy's really laid back. Got to really drag it out of him. But we're going to do the best we can to get him riled up and get him to talk. So, Avi?
Absolutely. We're talking about the one and only Paul Perez, who is a valued member and family member of PAPW. Paul, how are you?
Good. Thank you for having me, Avi. And Paul. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year to you. Where are you joining us from?
Shelton, Connecticut.
Shelton, Connecticut.
House. Yep.
You know, continuing with the celebration of PAPW, which we will do every segment now on Maintaining the Truth to celebrate what you guys mean to your students who've been messaging me, telling me what you mean to them. Paul, the first thing I want to do is kind of just scale it back a little bit. How long have you known Paul Roma?
I met him, I think, in 90 or 91. He was working full-time, and we were doing part-time, and I think we went to Syracuse. He was working Syracuse, and he drove back with us. That was my first experience with Roma.
Did you guys hit it off?
Yeah, pretty much. I can't remember. He just threw me the keys and said, "You're driving, kid," and I got in the car, and we made it home in a few hours.
You didn't have a choice to become his friend, then, didn't you, essentially?
No.
That's what you're telling us, yeah. Paul, so you guys were obviously on the circuit together and traveling together. When did you kind of touch base again, or did you still stay in touch and friendly throughout wrestling and even life after pro wrestling? Did you guys ever drift apart?
Yeah, actually, right after I got done, I actually really lost contact with everybody in the business. It wasn't until PAPW where, I started getting in contact with everybody again.
Paul, what made you think of Paul? Or, I mean, who contacted who? Was Paul Perez someone you wanted to contact when you were thinking about opening up those doors for PAPW?
Well, when Big Steve, Mario, and myself were talking, they had mentioned bringing, Paul in, and there were no objections. So that was it was a no-brainer to bring Paul in.
What do you feel is great about the addition of all of these trainers we see training the students in PAPW? For instance, what separates you guys? I know you have the same ideology, but as a trainer, what separates you, Paul, from Paul Roma, from Mario, from Steve Tracy?
I think it's just a different perspective and a different approach, really, because sometimes, you can beat a guy down and tell him stuff and doesn't get it, and then maybe you can figure out a different way to explain it to them where they go, oh, yeah, it clicks, and I think we have 4 ways of doing that,
That's a great way of putting it. Paul, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and actually, I've turned to Paul on, I don't know how many occasions, obviously a lot. And I've said, hey, Paul, you know what? He did this, and what do you think? Because, is that right? Does that resonate in your brain? And he goes, well, and then he tells me, and I'm like,
sure.
Okay, all right, yeah, okay, I get that. You know what I mean? So, Paul's like the voice of reason. He's laid back. I could, yell at one of my students, oh, what are you doing? It's this, it's that, and blah, blah, blah. And then I turn to Paul, and Paul's just like, mellow, kind of like in the chair. You know, nothing excites him. He doesn't get excited. I turn him and I could be raging, you know, in front of Paul, and he'll I see what you mean. You know, like all calm. You know?
I respect that. But I like the balance too. You guys balance each other out.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
doubt.
they
Essentially.
have that all the way around too.
Paul Perez, would you be the guy who's considered the good cop in PAPW?
Yeah, I see myself sometimes as a sounding board from everybody else when when there's a little heat.
Absolutely. Paul Roma made me aware of this. Also, you're a second-generation professional. Right, for our viewers that don't know that, you are second-generation, Paul Perez.
Yeah, my mom and dad both were indie wrestlers back in the 60s, actually.
1960s.
Yeah, out of Bronx.
Out of the Bronx. Well, you know what? I can't fault you. I'm kidding. I'm a Queens guy, so I'm just. Paul, let me ask you a question. Was that something that was in your blood more so than just something that you inherited from your parents? Was that something that you were striving for even as a kid? Did you know you wanted to be a pro wrestler as soon as you were a toddler, an infant? Let's go back even when you were newborn. It was pro wrestling something you were destined for?
Well, all my life I was going to my dad's shows. My mom actually stopped after I was born. But I went through all of the 70s going to all my dad's shows up until the 80s.
Wow.
So that was something I really wanted to do, And then he started training guys out of our basement, and he would always have me, work out with guys when I was like 12, 13.
Well, who were some of the guys that he was training out of your basement?
Nobody ever, made it big. They were just a local indie guys. Some, worked just in New England and stuff like that, but nobody of any recognition.
And your cousin also wrestled, right?
What's that?
Your cousin wrestled?
Oh, yeah, I have two cousins, Manuel Soto and Roberto Soto, who were, from back in the 70s. They actually introduced my mom and dad.
That's pretty incredible, Paul. I got to tell you something right off the bat. So, in a way, you didn't just have to get into business, obviously, by proxy, but you had to impress your dad. You better have been good. I mean, can you imagine what it's like to be a son of a professional wrestler? And just getting critiqued by them, that's a plus because you can better yourself in that craft. But also, did you feel like you had to live up to his expectations?
No, actually, I had more of a problem trying to impress my cousin Roberto because my dad trained me, but it was Roberto Soto that actually brought me with him and really broke me into the business. With Muskie Sala back in I think 85. Was my first experience working with guys like I can't even let's see who did I work with the Mighty Igor, Bulldog Don Kent. I worked with Jimmy Snuka even back then, so it was and he was the harshest critic.
Hector has a question. Who's Paul number 1 and who's Paul number 2 in PAPW?
Oh, I'm definitely Paul number 2.
Paul number Hector. I thought you know better, Hector. Come on. This is an amazing story. Thanks for sharing, Paul. Yeah, let's keep going with this. Now, Paul Roma, I want to ask you a question as it pertains to Paul Perez. What do you think is one of the great, and again, Paul probably won't answer this. I keep calling you guys both Paul. Pete, no, I can't say that either. Mr. Perez won't answer this.
Yeah, you can say it.
No, I'm not going to go there. Mr. Perez won't answer the following, so maybe Mr. Roma will. Paul Roma, what would be the one quality about Paul Perez that you think students benefit from in terms of just listening to his tutelage?
What they benefit from? Wow. Knowledge. He has so much to offer them, and he does it in such a way that he how can I say this? He mellows them out. If I get done talking to somebody, he'll say, "Oh, come over here, kid," and then they'll say, "Listen, this is why," and he makes them understand. Like, let's say your father, right? Your father yells at you, and you're closing your ears to it, and you march upstairs, and you're like, "Yeah, you don't know what you're talking about." Right. So I yell at these kids and, they don't hear what I have to say. And then Paul calls them over and the voice of reason talks to them. He opens up his little storybook and he tells them a story.
Sure.
And he has their full attention. So that's why, it all works. Everything works between all us guys. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you this, and maybe Paul doesn't want me to say this. I hope you don't get mad at me. So Paul has a son who came into the school and was learning wrestling, and he decided that he didn't want to do it. And Paul said, that's okay. And to me, that was like